Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. If you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by Class 6 Partners. Are you ready to sell your business or raise capital? Class 6 Partners guides you through the entire process, from business optimization to securing the perfect deal. With over $3 billion in transactions, they turn your business dreams into reality. Visit class6partners.com to start your journey today. Thomas, thank you for being on the Riderflex show today. Appreciate having you. Nice to meet you.
Same here. Looking forward to our conversation, and thanks for inviting me.
Now, is that Long Island or Massachusetts accent I hear? What is that? I can't tell.
Well, originally I was born in Long Island, then I moved out to Queens when I was about 21. Now I live between Queens and Fort Lauderdale. So it's Long Island, not Boston.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. No offense taken at all. I love Boston.
So you go down to Florida in the winter, basically?
No, I'm not a snow dove. I just go back and forth. So eventually when I retire, whenever that might be, I don't know how that's going to look. I probably spend a lot more time down there. The winters are getting tough in New York.
Right, especially as you get older.
Yes.
So where'd you go to high school?
Brentwood High.
All right. What'd your folks do?
Well, my father had his own business. He started out as being a chef in a restaurant, and then he started his own catering company, and he had 7 coffee trucks, and he did all these event catering. So it was a family business. We all kind of worked in it when we grew up, but that was my father. He had his own business his whole life, just about.
And your mom helped him, or what'd she do?
Oh yeah. She helped him all the time. Yeah, she was a major focus of the business.
Okay. Siblings?
Yeah, 7. Yes.
7? Was 7
Yeah.
total? 7?
Yeah.
Wow. Where were you in the mix?
Second to last.
Okay, so did that mean you got away with a bunch of shit then, basically? Because by the time you were born, they were, or no?
Yes and no, because it kind of flips around. Because when it got to my father never went to college, but he still made a great living. That there's association with that. But when it came to college, he paid for colleges for 3 of my brothers and sisters. They kind of just didn't do anything with it, or they kind of dropped out. When it came to me, I'm not paying, and I had to put myself through college. So
because he ran out, he was a little short on funds, or he was just done?
No, just he refused to pay for college that people that his kids weren't taking advantage of, and that probably taught me a good lesson. And I applied myself a lot more.
Okay, so. Were you a good kid or a rebel, or where were you in the mix?
No, I was both, but typically a good kid.
Okay.
Helped my parents out with work, and I had a job on my own when I was 14. So I've been working since I was 14. So.
All right, and you have the entrepreneurial bug, obviously, because your dad was an entrepreneur. So, did you know? Go ahead.
I learned so much from him. Even when I was 10, 12, going to work with him, helping him out. I was able to see how he operated, and that is still instilled in me, even till today.
I bet. And then how about now? You married, kids? What's your status?
Me and my husband have been together for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary and my 60th birthday. So we did amazing 3-week cruise and land trip through Europe. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow, 25 years?
Yes. And we kind of had the same mindset. So it really works well. Yeah.
And what's he do?
He's in human resources. So we have a lot of alignment in what we do professionally.
Totally.
He's the director of total rewards for aerospace company.
Oh, really? I see. So yeah, you guys are talking about HR and recruiting and people like all the time.
Yeah. It just comes naturally, especially when we bitch about the day sometimes.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, me and my wife do that too, for sure. Did you know? Okay, and what'd you go to school for?
Computer science. So, yeah, and again, when I went for computer science back then in the early 80s, everyone was going to computer science. Right. And when it came time to graduation, when I started college, the salaries were like 50 to 60, 75,000 back then. By the time I graduated college, because it was saturated, the starting salary had dropped 20,000. And I was working the same company through high school, junior high, and college, and I was making 85 to $100,000 when I graduated. So I never took the path of my college graduation, but
Wow.
it wasn't a waste. I mean, logically, I used everything I learned, but in different ways.
I see. Well, what were you going to be? What did you want to be at that time?
Um, well, I always wanted is weird. That's the weird. None of the weird questions. Weird that they asked that question. I always envisioned myself being a CEO of a company or
Oh,
really part of the upper level leadership team.
okay.
I kind of am now, but it's different than what I thought it was when I was in my 20s and 30s. And
Yeah.
every time I worked for a corporation, that was my goal: is to get promoted, move up, and be responsible for more of the leadership of the company.
Okay. All right. Very good. But early on, were you an ops guy? Were you HR? What were you before you? Yeah.
Ops. It's always operations, which AR falls under the arm of ops. So,
Okay.
so it's always been operations. Every company has always been operations, whether sales operations, business operations, but human resources. We always work together with them.
Okay. All right. Tell me how the switch happened. How did you, what happened? Did you quit your job? Did you get laid off? Didn't start your own thing? What happened?
Well, my last company I worked at was Associated Materials. It's on my LinkedIn profile. Was there
Saw
for
that.
12 years.
Yeah.
Loved the company. Loved what I was doing. But the pressure, I didn't think I was manifesting the pressure, but the pressure, it was a high pressure job. Even though I loved it, it was really weird. It was actually causing me to have kidney stones. For 6 years, I had 72 stones, and some of the huge stones, many different procedures. My doctor kept saying, after we went through all the elimination, he said, stress could be doing this to you. I never believed him. And then when I made the decision to quit corporate America and start and do something different, which turned out to be career thinker, what also sparked that decision, my mother had passed away on my birthday, 1 minute before my birth time. And then a couple months after that, going through losing my mom and all this pressure and then the kidney
Mm,
stones, I
mm.
decided just to make a career shift myself. And that's when I resigned. Surprised everybody, even surprised me. I had a kind of balls to do that because I was making really good money. I resigned and I had career thinking in my head. And I started career thinking with the purpose of helping people connect to career opportunities. And why career thinker? Because I used to work for Caldo department store as a district manager.
Okay.
Um, and then when Caldo went bankrupt, I just naturally started helping a lot of my store managers to
Uh,
the department managers. I started helping them write their resumes or tweak them or work with them. I did actually presentations for all the store that was in charge of, to get
okay.
them ready for their next career. And I always had that in back of my head. So I took
I
that
see.
knowledge from back in the 90s, took everything else I learned in operations and leadership, and I created Career Thinker.
And when you first started, did you have a bunch of money in save? How'd you live? Did you have a bunch of money in save?
Well, I was fortunate to have a spouse who supported my idea and
Okay.
supported me
Okay.
doing this. And that's
Okay.
one of the lessons I've learned. If you are going to decide to, um, you know, cold quit to start something, and I cold quit because of other things, but if you could manage both and get your business off the ground, that might be sometimes a smarter approach. If not, have a good solid year of income because
At least.
when you're making X amount of money to making really nothing in the beginning, that's very tragic.
What'd your husband say when you're like, hey, by the way, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to make zero next year.
Yeah. He was again. He knew what I was going through with the kidney stones. He was there every
Uh,
day and every hospital visit, and he was there for my mom's funeral. He understood what I went through. Even though my mother seemed to attach him more than me towards the last 5 years of her life. So he really understood what I was going through. So there was just no question. There was no discussion. There was yeah, okay, do that. You need to do it.
I remember when I first started Riderflex, at first, well, my wife's always been supportive, but after the first 12 months went by,
Hmm.
I think I had made like 30 grand or something. And before that, I was CPG executive and I was making over 200. And
Okay, exactly
I,
the same here. Yeah.
I remember my wife was like, yeah, I know you're having fun with this and everything, but is this how we're gonna have to live?
No, I totally understand that conversation. Yeah. And sadly, a lot of people when they start doing business, they create a paycheck, they create a job, not a business sometimes. So I learned
okay.
that through other people that started businesses around the same time. They replace an $80,000 job with an $80,000 business, and sometimes that's fine if that's what you want.
Sometimes that's fine. Was Career Thinkers, was that the name from the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I actually got a lot of help with that. I went on one of these websites where I put out having my top choices and had people vote on it. And
Oh,
Career Thinker was the one most people voted, and for good reasons. So that's why I chose that brand. And
it's careerthinker.com. Back then that
correct,
URL was available, I guess, huh? Obviously. Or did you have
right.
to
I
buy it?
wanted I wanted I wanted Career Sharks because I used to love
Mm.
sharks. But that was like Career Sharks wasn't available, and that was like at 15,000 to get that, and that was a long time ago to get that name. So Career Thinker was available. It cost me 19.99.
Okay, very good. All right. So give us the elevator pitch for Career Thinker as it is today. Go for it.
Well, the elevator pitch is to empower people to move their career forward. That's kind of part of my branding message. So when you give people the right tools, the right advice, the right knowledge, they can control or steer their career where they wanted to go.
Okay, so hey Thomas, what do I do about this? Or LinkedIn or resume, or you find me a job, or what all talk to me about what it
Yeah,
includes.
yeah. I'm not going to find you a job. I'm going to equip you to find your job. So I had two sides of Career Thinker because what happened when I started Career Thinker was all career services, and that's what my focus and my passion is about. But the recruiting arm fell in my lap. So I do recruiting for 4 national companies, sales, business operations, and human resources. And then I have the career service side where we do about 300 and 330 career clients, and we have not eight, six writers and coaches on the team. So what we do is help with your resume, your LinkedIn, because in today's world, and it hasn't been a job search in over a decade, it's a career marketing campaign. And when you look at your resume and the LinkedIn, you cover letter as being marketing tools, you think about things a little differently. You're a lot more strategic of what should be on the resume. And it really comes down to the value you bring to what the company needs. And when you concentrate on that, you make a huge difference. And when people read your resume or they find you on LinkedIn, they can see the value. And if it's what they're looking for, that's when the magic happens.
Mm. Okay, so how does it work? Is it a contract? Do I pay you by the hour? Do I pay you for the whole what's the business model?
Yeah. So the business model is, and I've been following the same business model forever. So my website has the different packages. Most people would team with us for the resume and LinkedIn and cover letter package. Um, we will work with you to recraft the resume. Most resumes, I'm sure you could attest to this, most resumes need a lot of help.
Mhm.
I'm saying that nicely. And then we work through the resume. We really help uncover the candidate's value and what the accomplishments are. And when we say accomplishments, people freak out. I don't have numbers. If you have KPIs, by all means, we want to use that. If not, in words, we could tell very powerful stories of what was your impact, what problems did you solve, how did you improve things. There's a lot of ways to tell great stories. So that's what the resume needs to be: is a list of bullet points that are front loaded with the outcome, that showcase your successes, that follows with the how, skills in action. And when you do that consistently, you can create very powerful resumes and LinkedIn profile that really showcase who you are.
Okay. Is it is your target client, do you call them client or customers? The candidates. What do you call them? Customers? I don't know.
I call them clients. Yeah.
Clients. All right. Do your clients typically come from like VP level and up, or managers, or what level of people are you dealing with?
Well, when it first started out, it was all kind of like the mid-level and a lot of college grads. I kind of I had imposter syndrome for a while. I've been in business 14 years. So the first handful of years, I was just kind of I don't know, afraid to speak to the C-suite executive or something. I don't know. Maybe I had the education and whatever. I just didn't feel comfortable. I got over that about 12 years ago. So my typical client now is the upper middle level to the C-suite.
Okay. And talk to me about the financial model. Is it do I pay you one time? Do I pay you for ongoing? How
Right.
does it work?
So the investment model is you pay me for the package, whether you buy the resume, LinkedIn, and cover letter, which is 91% of my sale, the triple play package. Depending what level you're at, I have different pricing depending on the career level. So that's going to be rewriting, recrafting the resume. We spend about 7, 8 hours in every resume project. The LinkedIn, we're going to rebrand your LinkedIn from the band image to the headline to the about section, the career experience, the skills section that drives the algorithms. We'll create all that for you. We'll craft a resume that's going to be more of a conversational human voice cover letter, because most cover letters just suck. They really do. So we create a human voice cover letter that really speaks to who you are, and all that. You pay the package price, and
I see.
you come a lot of that comes with some coaching, 2 sessions of coaching,
Oh, it
and
does.
then and then I would say about 55% of my clients come back for additional coaching, whether it's more LinkedIn coaching, job search coaching. I do mock interview services. Those are other add-on services. So I ease people into what they might need.
Okay.
Most people need those marketing tools first.
Okay. All right. Very good. And do you talk openly on your website about the pricing, or that's private?
Oh, no, it's on there. And again, I've been following that structure. What a lot of people in my industry, they try to figure out what you make, and they try to back out what you think they you afford. I don't
Um,
play that game. My
I
prices
see.
are straightforward. I typically coach people, set aside about 1 to 1.5% of your target salary for good quality services. Because in my industry, it's a wild west out there with pricing. And then that establishes some point of what they might need to spend, because they might
Okay.
need extra help. Some people just don't know LinkedIn. Some people freeze up in job interviews, even executives. Some people were
Oh, yeah.
promoted through the ranks, and when it comes to interviewing, they just
Yeah.
freeze.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So if an executive is making 200,000, 250,000, 1% is 2,500. They can probably spend $1,200 on the marketing documents, and then they might need other help afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in total agreement. As a recruiter myself, executives sometimes are the worst interviewers. I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, they've been promoted or whatever, or they've had a big position and now they're overly cocky,
yeah,
and
that happens sometimes. Yeah.
and then that comes across wrong in the interview. Okay, very good. Now, are you doing any of the tactical yourself, or your coaches do it all now? You're big enough to where you're just an administrator.
Well, I'm running operations of the business, so I don't do much of the writing anymore. But I'll do all the coaching as far as the LinkedIn coaching, the
I
job search
see.
coaching,
I
the
see.
mock
Okay.
interviews. I
Okay.
love that part of the business.
I
I
see.
know how to write a great resume. It just takes me way too long to do it. So my writers
Okay.
do that. I handle
Okay.
everything else. And the recruiting side of the business, I have 4 recruiters in my team, and one of them kind of manages the whole process. So I'm kind of hands off the recruiting side, but
Okay.
we hire about 150, 160 positions a year.
Okay. Very good. What percentage of your business is the recruiting versus the candidate services?
It's about 60 as far as income,
Yeah.
60% from recruiting, 40% when it comes down to the bottom line in the career services.
Okay. So
But
even though you really don't want to be on the recruiting side, it's the majority of your volume.
right, but I'm more passionate about the career service side.
Okay. Uh, for the listeners, I know we can talk about this next thing for hours, but if you had to rank them, what's the number one question people screw up in an interview?
An interview, it varies. Yeah, I ask a lot of because I do some interviewing too, and I ask a lot of off questions. Um, the typical question is, why should we hire you? That seems to be or tell me about yourself. That seems to be a very common question, which is something I'll do during interview coaching, but I typically don't ask that question because I like to ask questions that get deeper responses. But tell me about yourself, that's the biggest question people seem to mess up. Of course, they start at the beginning. They go back to 1982, their first job, and they work their way up. At that point, if I'm 5 minutes into the story, I lost focus. So if you can tell me about yourself, tell me where you are now, and then gradually go back and how did you get to each location? And at some point, if I have what I need, we could end the conversation. But if you start out in 1985, 1990, I'm already bored with your story. So as a recruiter, start where you are now and talk about the successes you've done now,
Ooh,
and
that's
then work
good.
backwards.
I like that advice. How about number one? What would your number one tip be for resume? Or asking the question a different way, what's the biggest, most common mistake you see? I guess kind of the same question.
Ooh, there was a lot of bad advice out there. But when it comes down to the resume, my point of view, there's two parts to the resume that matter most. The resume heartbeat, and that's a summary which starts out with your branding message, has a little bit of talking about who you are, and then the resume heartbeat. The heartbeat are the bullet points in the career experience. And that's where you want to pump value. Most people, the bullet points explain a job description or they explain actions and no outcomes. So typically a bullet point is the most valuable part of the resume. And when a recruiter or hiring manager reads the resume the first time, we don't read it like a document. We spend 5 to 10 seconds on the summary section, which is a heartbeat. And if we dive into the first job, we look at the company name, the tenure, the job title, and we dive into the bullet points. Now, you should have a paragraph that explains the role. That won't get read first, but the bullet points explain your successes. And they need to be front-loaded with the outcome, the contribution, followed by the action, the how. And that's kind of a car story reversed. And when I read a resume, if I read one bullet point, wow, look what Tom has done. Wow, look what he's done again. I'm a lot more relaxed. I'm going to read a lot more bullet points. And because they're short, front-loaded with outcome, I can read a lot more value quickly. That's the biggest mistake. Most resumes read like a list of job functions. I don't know if you sucked at your job or you did it well.
Should the resume be, or excuse me, should your LinkedIn profile be a reflection of your resume for the most part, or how should they differ in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a lot of advice out there. Your resume, your LinkedIn profile needs to be a whole different story, different career. When it comes to the career experience, it should match your resume as long as you're allowed to share that on your LinkedIn profile. Certain financial companies, you got to be careful what you share because it is your digital resume. There are two companies we recruit for. They haven't posted a job in 6 years. We do all the recruiting through LinkedIn. We'll find your profile. So those stories, those bullet points, those keywords, all that matters a great deal in where you show up in LinkedIn Recruiter. So we have a blank resume, LinkedIn profile. You just have job titles with nothing underneath it. You probably won't get found because the keyword density and keyword diversity of your profile is going to be weak. So the career history should be a close mirror to a value-based resume. And then the where you differ is from the headline, the band image, the about page is where you get more of your personality.
Very good. Thank you for that. My next question, again, targeted at giving advice to, I know you, the answers you're giving, you do this for a living and get paid. So I appreciate you giving out some free consultation here.
No problem.
How about this one? Curious how you coach your candidates. And right now we're recording this on September 5th, 2024. So we're a little bit of ways here from the next presidential election. And as politics and social topics heat up on social media, how do you coach your candidates as it relates to their posting on social media if they're in the middle of a job search? Or do you tell them anything?
No, I mean, that's part of the strategy too, because if they come to me more coaching, we go into what you post and what your comments are. A lot of my clients aren't comfortable posting unless they're in marketing, but sometimes you could comment on other people's posts. That's a great way to get your voice out there. Basically personal stuff. You have your professional side, you have personal side. So LinkedIn has changed over the past 5 years since COVID. A lot of people share a lot more personal things, what they did in the weekend, celebrating an anniversary. Mm-hmm. I kind of shy away from that. But when it comes to politics, religion and stuff, don't take sides. Don't comment on that. That's my advice. It's not worth it. If you want to get involved in that, there's other platforms to do that on. But because everyone has an opinion, nobody's right or wrong, or people have different opinions. So stay away from that type of information. And LinkedIn is kind of swinging back to what it was pre-COVID. There's a lot less of these emotional posts on LinkedIn. And I live on LinkedIn, so I see them all. Well, most of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm in LinkedIn all day long. What do you tell your candidates to do with Twitter and Facebook and other stuff? Do you tell them, hey, I post whatever you want, or do you tell them to be careful there too?
Well, if they're in a job search, and even because I do an analysis before, as soon as a client hires me, I take a look at their Facebook, Instagram, TikTok if they have one. I'm not on TikTok, but I'll take a look, and then X. So and now what's the other one? Facebook has
Instagram.
I forgot the name of it.
Instagram.
No, they have another one that came out 2 years ago.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, no, Threads.
Okay.
It's called Threads. Yeah, and I take a look at it if I get a bad vibe, and because I had one young marketing manager. You look at Instagram Instagram and not Instagram, partying, drinking, and stuff like that. That's fine. That's what I like to do in the weekend. I have weekends like that too, but sometimes you want to keep that more private and hide it from the public. So
Yeah, so appreciate that answer. What I tell candidates on this side is very similar. I basically what I say is, look, if you're in the job hunt, like if you're in the market for a job and you're actively interviewing and applying,
mhm.
I recommend you just hold on all of that stuff.
Right.
Just don't. And you go, if once you get a job and you feel comfortable and you feel safe somewhere, hey, go for it. Post whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Well, and people don't realize sometimes they don't realize our subconscious mind works. As a gay man, if I visit someone's Instagram and they're having really bad posts against the LGBT community, that shouldn't affect my decision if they're a good qualification for the company, but it will affect my emotions around it.
Sure. Bingo.
I can't help it.
Exactly.
No, anyone in any situation.
Exactly. And that's the advice is you got to understand the human emotion. I mean, yeah, you're not supposed to have those biases, but we're human beings and we have
Right.
emotions. And so, there's almost no way to get around it. And the final thing on this topic before we move on is, well, what I also tell people is I'm like, look, just about every major topic that's debated on social media, whether it's a social issue or political issue, pretty much it's split down the middle almost every time. It's like 50-50. So no matter what you say, you're going to piss off half the reader. So
Right.
why would you want, and by the way, what you say isn't going to change their minds anyway. So who
Yeah.
cares?
And no, and then a good example that Taylor Swift. I like her music. I'm not a super fan, but if you go to any of the posts around her, it's like, where's this hatred coming from? And when you're posting hatred around Taylor Swift, which is, in my opinion, she's a pretty decent person. It's
Yeah,
just it's weird how things happen on social media.
I totally agree. So yeah, okay, wrapping that up. Just be careful. If you're in the job hunt, I would totally be careful. Okay, very good. Thank you for all of that. Let's do this next. You've had the company for how many years now?
14.
14 years. Okay, well, when you first started, it was a totally different ball game. The last, call it 12 months, 24 months, but really the last 12 months with the AI effect,
Oof, okay.
you know, it's like, whoa. I mean, I know there had to be moments when some of the large language models started coming out where you're waking up and you're looking at these things going, oh shit, this might affect what we're doing over here. Talk to me about how you're managing the AI effect. What do you think about it? How are you
Yes.
managing and have you pivoted at all? Talk to me.
Well, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, the last three posts I wrote, I authored was around AI in both the recruiting side and AI in the resume side. I think AI is amazing if you use it as a tool to assist you. What's happening now on the recruiting side, both and the resume side, there's a lot of programs out there. Excuse me, I got the hiccups today. A
That's
lot of
all right.
programs out there that you pay for how many applications you want. So you like Massive. If you want Massive to apply to 300 jobs a month, it will apply to 300 jobs based on the target you set up. Excuse me. It'll tweak your resume. It'll write a cover letter. It will apply on your behalf. You have no way of knowing what to apply with. And I'm seeing that on the flip side of the recruiting side.
Wow.
So I interviewed
So
a woman.
your robot's talking to their robot.
It's really weird. I was talking to an interview the other day for it's about $130,000 job for a director of sales in Texas, interviewing a young woman. And on a job posting it said you must have Salesforce experience 2+ years to convert leads to paying clients. And another bullet point about being familiar or comfortable working with marketing software. So during a job interview, I asked well, give me an example. I use Salesforce to convert clients to leads to clients. She
I've
looked
never
at me. She
used,
said,
she's like, I've never
I
used
never used
Salesforce.
Salesforce. I said, was he on your resume? And then I asked another question about marketing. And she proudly said, with a kind of a smirk on her face, well, I use generative AI to write my resume. So she thought you having been smart about AI should trump everything else. She didn't get hired. I kind of almost killed the interview after that because she
Yeah.
had untruths on her resume. So she actually lied without knowing that. And that's what's happening out there. And even the recruiting side, where we used to have job postings out there, and you can look at LinkedIn and see this also. We would typically get from 100 to 240 resumes in 2 to 3 weeks. Now we're getting anywhere from 800 to 3,000 in the same period of time.
Because it's easier
I,
to, it's easier to apply. You just apply,
Right, you just
or
apply. Yeah, I mean, you can have
yeah,
these systems
yeah,
do it automatically. And what
yeah,
happened is the database and ATS system is full of resumes that might be rich in keywords that might score a little bit better than the resumes that weren't written by AI totally,
yeah, yeah,
and might float to the top. But the unqualified candidates, some of them shouldn't even be applying for the job. It's
yeah.
so screwed up right now. I have a friend who's she recruits a lot of IT positions in Texas. And they posted 2 weeks ago, they posted jobs on Friday. By Monday morning, one job had close to 3,000, another one had 2,500 applications. 85% of them were from India because they were remote jobs.
Wow.
So all these systems applied to these jobs because they were remote.
I see.
So it's very different. Um, but it's a great tool. It's a great tool if you get stuck. How do I rewrite this paragraph to sound more like the company's job posting? Take these 5 bullet points that I created. You start with your core resume. Take these 5 bullet points. How do I write them to match your job posting better? Taking little bits of that, helping you create the better content is exactly what we should be doing. Not having AI rewrite your resume for every job.
Couldn't agree more. So, yeah, you said it well. It's a tool. It's a tool to enhance or tweak your resume or change your resume when you need to, but you need to look at it and make sure it hasn't lied or created something that's not real. You don't just have AI do the resume for you and send it without even looking at it. Like
Well,
it's
but these services do that automatically. They're gonna you pick I want to apply 200 jobs a month or 300 jobs a month. It will find your jobs and apply for them. Obviously,
wow.
you set up your profile and criteria what you want to apply for, but you be applying for a company that you don't want to work for. Like when I
Wow.
worked for Macy's for a short period of time, and when we hired someone to do the women's wear floor, part of that floor was the fur department. She was a big PETA advocate. So why did she take the job when she knew she couldn't sell furs? So you don't apply to companies where you don't connect to.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and by the way, I want the listeners, I don't want the listeners to get the wrong impression of how I'm thinking. Like, hey, it's for me, it's like Microsoft Word spell check or whatever. It's a tool. Like, yeah, use the tool to get better, but don't let it do things for you that you're not aware of or create stuff that's not true.
Right.
For sure. You know what? Now, I just read an article in the Wall Street Journal. You probably saw this one too. It was a couple of days ago. The article was kind of slamming candidates for using AI on their resumes to enhance their resumes. And I was reading the article, and I'm like, okay, us us clients and the companies and the recruiting firms, we've been using AI for years in our ATS system, and now that the candidates are using it, we want to pick on them. I don't know if that's fair.
Well, the AI has been around for 30 years, but
Yeah,
generative AI using large language models is really fairly new, especially to
yeah,
the public.
yeah.
So the AI in the ATS system is more linear, where they're looking for these keyword matches or keyword
Right,
association. But
right.
this deep dive into what's available for everyone to use. And again, I'm seeing cover letters that kind of sound the same.
Yeah.
And again, and they're all boring, big paragraphs. It's not really. I practice and preach and do the human voice cover letter. When you see the cover letter, you're going to read it because it looks totally different. It's a conversation the job seekers having with the company.
Mm. Now, okay, so we're all right. So now let me ask you this. What happens to guys like me and you and our companies when the AIs and robots actually get better?
And it will. So
Yeah.
I'm doing the National Resume Writing Association. yearly conference for resume writers. I'm doing a 3-hour workshop
Okay.
for that conference, and it's all about AI in our industry. I did
Okay.
one last year. I teach a LinkedIn course in my industry. I certify over 350 resume writers and college career center people how to effectively use LinkedIn. So I have a deep understanding and connection to all this.
Okay.
But even last year when I talked about AI and LinkedIn, which kind of sucks right now, AI won't replace people, but people using AI will. People using AI well will.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of losing my job and company, but people don't use AI well and smartly might just fall off the earth, to be honest.
Yeah, I did. So interestingly enough, I just did a post on that this morning. I highly recommend anybody listening continue to educate yourself, pay attention, read the articles, get the certifications, learn how to use the tools, pivot, change, adapt. I
Yep.
mean, if you're just sticking your head in the sand and not paying attention and not learning how to use these tools, you will be left behind. Guarantee it.
And there's one thing about AI we're really unsure about, and it's the privacy of AI. Now,
Yeah.
you have a lot of people taking their resume, uploading their resume with the name, address, and everything, uploading it to AI as a document, because you can do that in ChatGPT, uploading a job post and do a comparison.
Mhm.
We have to be careful because I know you can't find any personal information out with AI. That doesn't mean it's not out there.
Yeah. Oh, it's out
So
there.
at some
It's out there.
point, will that become visible to everybody? So we got to be careful not to, put our private information in AI. I see people do it all the time.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, now, I actually, this kind of will bleed into another subject here. Your mock interviews and the teaching people how to interview. I actually think the verbal communication and presence and the ability to interview, I think that becomes even more critical as AI levels the playing field on the written material that's presented, right? Like a lot more resumes are better. A lot more cover letters are better because they're more common people are using AI. So the
Right.
so the written material coming in is that playing field's being leveled, in my opinion. And therefore, the best way for you to really stand out is to make sure you know how to you're really interviewing well and presenting and speaking and talking
Right.
well. And so are you getting more are you getting more coaching around that or no?
Not yet. I mean, I'm still doing about the same amount of coaching around mock interviews or interview coaching in general.
Okay.
I've still been consistent. But I think that's a very valid point. But the hardest thing right now, the job market is kind of weird. The
Yeah.
2024 is a really tough job market,
Hmm.
especially for that middle level to that lower leadership level. Those 120 to $250,000 jobs, and especially in technology or project management around technology, and it's been tough for the past 10 months.
Oh,
Um,
it's been slow. It's been slow hiring. Yeah, definitely a
yeah,
down year for hiring. I mean, almost every recruiter I talk to is
yeah,
is,
yeah,
is down down versus, well, 2022 is great. And then,
yeah.
everybody's been slower since then. Let me ask you this. Here's another futuristic question. So I'm like you. I listen to all the podcasts, the AI stuff, the robotic stuff. I read the book The Coming Wave by Mustafa Solomon, from the guy that's CEO of Microsoft
Yeah.
AI. I listened to the full interview of Brett. I think it's Brett Adcock, the CEO of Figure, the robotics company. I mean, I'm constantly staying on top of it, right? What do you think about this? There are a lot of very smart billionaires out there currently predicting that AI and robotics will eliminate millions of jobs, and that sooner or later, a lot of the country will be on universal basic income. Do you believe that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've thought about this topic often. And again, sometimes you get into political stuff when you talk about that, because even right now with AI, there's a lot of rules coming out, even for ATS systems, regulations. I know
Yeah,
there's like 7 states that have them in place, or almost in place right now. So
yeah,
it depends how government steps in, and how we affect all this. But I do think a lot of jobs that people just don't like doing would definitely be replaced by robots or AI in general and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's a scary day when everyone
All
just
right.
gets a
A little
basic, and it's
bit.
a real scary day. So I don't want to. I mean, I'm against that happening. I'm not saying that's going to stop that, but I don't know. That's going to take a lot of humanity out of our lives because work is such an important part of who we are.
You know,
So when we're not working, what happens to the society? What happens to the the relationship skills and all that's gonna is yeah, it's just that's scary. Great movie, but I don't know.
I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I was thinking it's kind of fun and easy to say the words, wow, utopia, universal basic income, and
Yeah,
robots do everything and we're all happy and we don't have to work. At first, that kind of sounds sexy, but then you start thinking, okay, between now and that point, like to get from now to there, whew, you're talking messy and scary for sure.
yeah, definitely. But but I think what we and if you're fortunate enough to find jobs and careers where you flourish and you love, that's magical. I don't think, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. And that's why I like the career service side of my business because I really want to help people move forward in their careers.
Yeah. I,
And
I think you're gonna have a lot of opportunity with transitional things. As AI
right,
and robotics do affect certain jobs and
right,
careers and functions go away, other functions are created, you're gonna have people that need your help to, okay, how do I pivot? How do I
right.
transition? I think there's gonna be a big opportunity there.
And generationally, I mean, I remember the last recession when I started on Career Thinker, 95% of my clients were unemployed because they lost a job. Most of them had one or two jobs for the past 20 years, and they were so unskilled. Not they weren't smart people, they were unskilled because they were stuck in that one
Yeah.
company where they only know the skill they needed to know. What's happening now, because technology changes and shifts it so quickly, we don't know the relevant skills. What happens is you become totally unskilled, and that's where a lot of people still are having that problem. So, like you said before, learn it, be engaged, read, practice, trial, error, whatever. Just do it.
Yes. Yep, couldn't agree more. It's an interesting world we're living in, isn't it,
Definitely.
Thomas?
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because when you talk about technology, I'm 60, so I was able to remember and see a lot of shifts, when a calculator, oh, kids are going to be stupid in school because they now have calculators.
Yeah.
When video games first came out, when computers came out, it's all doom and gloom. None of that happened, and it's probably
Yep.
not going to happen, but it's how do we accept it and embrace it?
Great point and great comparison with the calculator. I've used that myself. I've have friends of mine that still have little kids. All of our kids are grown, but I have friends of mine that have kids in school. And I challenged my buddy the other day. I was like, so what about asking about ChatGPT and stuff? And I said, well, do you let your 12-year-old use ChatGPT to do homework? Oh, no, 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 no. I'd never do that. And I go, really? I said, okay, well, do you let him use the calculator to do math?
Yeah. No, no, it's true. Yeah. And
Yes.
again,
I
if
mean,
it frees us up for things that we don't need to have a deep understanding of sometimes, then we could do other things in life that are important or important to our
exactly.
careers. It's all good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all good. Hey, if there's a tool out there that can help me be smarter and move faster and be more efficient, you better bet your ass I'm going to use it.
Yes. No, I
Uh,
agree. But
well, listen, Thomas, great conversation. Appreciate you sharing. Congratulations on your business and having it this
thank
many
you.
years. Yeah, congrats. Sounds like you've done a wonderful job, and appreciate you sharing on the Riderflex show. Thank you.
Well, thanks. I had a good conversation. Loved it.